Hey, yo, I'm gonna be honest. Like, sometimes I'm glad I don't have Netflix because Netflix still seems to be on the forefront as far as content as movies and shows and specials. And I know I talk about this all the time on the pod as far as about social media and how we allow social media to affect our day. But like again, I always encourage, you keep a balance because just like Chris Rock's special, which I did not see, is Selective Outrage, we deal with the same thing. He wasn't just talking about Will Smith. He was talking about all of us. And that's something that we have to take accountability and fess up to.
What's up, blessed ones? You are now blaring the podcast. Brought to you by AB1 Studios. Thank you for your time. Listening. You wanna know something else, blessed ones?
Now, again, I don't have Netflix. I didn't see the new Chris Rock special. I think it's called Selective Outrage. And of course, I could be late, but I wanted to address something, because people was all on social media, all on podcasts, kind of like going in on Chris Rock saying, he was, once again pandering to the white audience, and it's just like it wasn't really for them. And here's the thing: we have to remember, it's a new day and age. Now there was some clips that I seen, like everybody else on Instagram, Twitter, etc., social media. He was going in on, and I'm talking about Chris Rock. He was going in on Will Smith as far as about the slap. I mean, of course, we had to still remember that, it's still being talked about, but selective outrage isn't too far fetched. It's like we all have that because again, it goes back again to deal with your own trauma, deal with your own problems. Like I talk about this on prior episodes, even when I was talking scriptural, we got to work out our own salvations because it's like I don't have anything to do with how you respond to things. I only have something to do with how I respond to things. So people who was talking about how Will Smith wouldn't have did it if The Rock was on stage or a lot of other guys who's probably more known to be, bigger guys or even like action guys who were more like, I guess more kind of like controversial in a sense. Because again, Rock's a wrestler, but we do not know that. And the only unfortunate thing now is that Chris is kind of like he has that burden because now it's in a sense of like, let's say hypothetically, let's say if let's say if I can say it. I'm not even going to use The Rock as an example because The Rock is a wrestler. He is, he is an athlete, and but he's not in like controversial things like that. But let's say if I'm trying to think of someone, let's say if it was a gang and that happens, would Will Smith go on stage and smack the gang? Maybe not now, because again, one thing that I've learned is that a lot of times we become the unfortunate mishap where, say, if you're the first and the only, you now got to carry that weight that somebody done something to you because maybe maybe because you aren't the controversial, aggressive type person. But one thing that we also have to keep in mind, and I want y'all to pay attention to this point because, again, y'all know me, I can, go on a tangent. Will Smith apologized, whether it was sincere or not. He apologized. He understands that he behaved poorly and his decisions were terrible. So now, when other things like that happens, he's not going to do anything, maybe. He's probably not going to do anything. And then people can sit here and say what they want and dictate how, Will's a punk or whatnot. He want to go with Chris Rock. Even Chris Rock said it. I don't really like the fact that he said somebody he can beat, which again, hey, live your truth, because again, Chris Rock isn't a fighter. This guy been mainstream for a long time, and also Will. He's on the level, like Chris Rock and Will Smith, they're on the level of the Eddie Murphys and the Denzels. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not on the level of, on the levels of, like, I'm gonna say an Andrew Schultz or what's the guy's name from from Snowfall, Idris. Idris, I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, I do not watch, but they're not on those levels. Like, they've been around for a while, and no shade to Andrew Schultz. Like I said, I'm a fan of his. I like Andrew Schultz. I'm just saying, like, the star power. Andrew Schultz, he's been doing it for a long time, for a long enough time. I can call him a vet, but it's like he's not on that Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock star level yet. Some people might still not be able to say, oh, that's Andrew Schultz from the Brilliant Idiots, or that's Andrew Schultz from the Infamous. It's like he's those who know him know him. Those who are fans know him. Like Chris Rock, people who aren't even really familiar with Chris Rock's comedy or anything, they know who Chris Rock is. But my whole thing is we gotta stop trying to make it seem as though like Chris Rock is the only one that's addressing things, or the only one who's like been playing victim or not, because we all deal with selective something. We deal with, like I said, selective outrage, selective sex, selective, care, because it's to each his own. And like I say, one thing that I will say, because again, me being a podcaster, I'm also a fan of other podcasts. And that's why I always like to, point out, different topics. I have different views on things, and I have different entities. Like, there's different shows that I like to listen to. And when I listen to something that resonates with me, I start to do that. Okay, so one thing that was pointed out, because there's the other episode that I was listening to recently, the So Shameless podcast, who I again, one of my favorite top 5 podcasts that I listen to. This is I'm gonna bring back free promo. I probably should bring back free promo, but they was pointing out something, as far as Chris Rock in that point where he was, like he was pandering to white folks and doing all that. But I'm gonna put it like this: y'all have to go listen to it. But we all care about what we care about. We're biased in the things that we defend, whether we're sitting here defending our gay cousins, whether we're sitting here defending our murderous neighbor, whether we're sitting here defending our abused mother. We all pick and choose what we want to speak out on. Okay? And the reason why I mention social media and Netflix is because I think for a lot of people, especially myself, because I'm the one that, again, I have to speak for myself, Netflix is cool. All these streaming services are cool. Spotify, all these apps are cool. Stand-up specials are cool. But again, it's like there's so many different options now. There's so many different topics now. People are going to talk about what they want to talk about. The Chris Rock thing, people talk about that. Whether you want to sit here and talk about, again, Guy Idris smashing Chloe Bax out in the new movie, whether we want to sit here and talk about politics, whatever. People are going to pick and choose what they want to talk about, and people are going to address what they want to talk about. Because here's the thing. People want to mind their business until it's close to home. Is it wrong? No, because it's our life. We have to decide what is best for us to do. Like I can't sit here and go against the whole world. I can probably be the only person, and I say this all the time, I can be the only person that believes in God and live my life in a way that maybe nobody else is living. And I'm perfectly fine with that. It's just like when you get on social media, you are then going against the world with your opinions, with your think pieces, with your thought process. And if you decide to share it, you got to make a decision on whether you want people to comment on it or just look at it. Because here's the thing about it. We don't have to do anything but stay black and die. I'm speaking from a black man's perspective, from a black man's stance. I don't have to do anything but stay black and die. So if I choose to be upset, I'm going to be upset because it's not always one of those choices that I just honestly make. It's an emotional thing. I said this, when I talk about my son, when I talk about my son, I get emotional. Sometimes I can't help because I care. I don't get emotional when I'm addressing anybody else's child because I don't have that connection there. So it's the same thing if I'm talking or pointing out something, because that's the one thing about social media. One thing I will say about social media is, and the one thing that I like about podcasts is, there are certain things that are pointed out. Like I might have something in mind that I might have forgot about. So that's why I say, hey, I don't need to have Netflix. I don't need to have Hulu. If I got Amazon Prime or Tubi and Crackle, all these other streaming platforms. There's a lot of streaming platforms out there. I really hate listening to Spotify music because it's just the way that the setup is. But I got Apple Music. It's like it's selective. I make that decision. It's my choice. But at the same time is I can get on Twitter. I can get on AudioMac. I can get on all these different sites, and hey, I might come across something. I'm saying, okay, well, look, I don't have to go up here to get the content. But again, it's like there's so much stuff around. Like we don't have to have our hands on everything. And I'm getting a little bit off topic, but the whole bottom line is this, right? We all care. So if even woke culture, they care. They want to sit here and talk about, pandering to the white folks who care what the white people think. It's like you all care. Maybe not to a degree where it's like, okay, you don't care if they judge or not, but you care, because it's like we all have some sense of respect and some sense of mannerism for ourselves. It's not even necessarily about the race itself, but just the people. Like if you didn't care whether white people or whatever or anybody, it don't even have to be, like I said, it doesn't even have to be white people. But but my thing was, when people were saying he was pandering to the white audience, but it's like this isn't really something new, and it's not really true. Because just because you don't resonate with it anymore doesn't mean that it's there to pander to another community. There's certain levels that we are all on. Kanye West can be Kanye West can be something else. But I'm going off topic because I have to remember this is a podcast. I'm losing myself for a second real quick, trying to explain it. I'm losing myself trying to explain it. Let me take my time. We're all selective. So forget about race. Forget about age. Forget about money. We're all selective. Chris Rock selective, Will Smith selective, you're selective. People don't like Chris Rock special, that's cool. They can express their opinion, they can pot it, they can tweet, they can do whatever you want. I'm just up here to really point out that, so what? Let's say Chris Rock is pandering to the white audience. That might be his audience now. But we have to remember, like I said, like sometimes, and this is something that was also addressed before, but I don't remember if it was Sweetie or whoever mentioned something about, how Birkin bags are, when black people kind of make it pop and it then becomes like a ratchet thing. But it's like, no, it's just, there are people out here, and I can only speak for a community that I'm around. I'm part of the black community. Not saying that other communities aren't this way, but black people, we're flashy. We're vengeful. We're petty. But we're also excellent. We're also forgiving. We're also loving and understanding. So it goes back again to, we pay attention to what we want to pay attention to. That's our choice. Like, shout out to the people who are humble enough, who are strong enough to just watch and observe. That's why part of the reason why I did this podcast, to change the narrative, to give you all something different than what everybody else is getting. Because even though I don't talk about pop culture, even though I talk about what's going on in the entertainment industry, or relationships, or God, or any of that, that's something that I'm into, and I share with you. I don't talk much about politics because I'm not into politics. I don't talk much about sports because I don't watch sports enough to even do a whole show about it. I can talk about movies and music and podcasting, maybe even a small bit of fashion, but it's certain things that I'm into that's entertaining to me, that's educational to me, and that's very encouraging to me that I like to share. Am I being selective then? Of course. You know, I'm finding out there's new 7 love languages that nobody mentioned before. I listened to an old episode back in January by Michelle Williams recently. Nobody's talking about that, as far as I know. But you know, I get on my tangent. But hey, if I'm being selective, just remember everything's objective, subjective, and exceptional. That's why I try not to be so judgmental and critical, because everything is different. I was just kind of like trying to really understand, or at least express a level of the word that I'm looking for is always out of my head. And this is another thing about my podcast, for those of you who've already been listening, is I do this live, no edits, nothing, raw and uncut. Maybe that's not the best way to do it, but that's my way on doing it. If anybody wants to change the way that I do things, help me change it. Otherwise, I'm gonna do it the way that I know how. Because once again, I do understand, on some sense, everybody has a show, but everybody's talking about the same thing. I don't want to sit here and talk about the same thing. I'll be on social media, and I'll be on Twitter and Instagram, and I see the different things. I'll be like, oh, let me talk about this. I mean, there's a lot of information that I get every day that I can address. It's just a matter of writing it down and remembering it, or whether I want to talk about it this episode or the next episode. But it's content that can be addressed. It's not a matter as far as whether anybody, like a lot of people, want to listen to it, because I do this for those listening and those interested. It can be one person, it can be 100 people, 1,000 people. Even if it's just me and my son, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna hit record, and release it. I have an episode that haven't touched the airwaves, and that's my choice. You know, I done sat with people who I had conversations with. I done had different episodes with different people, and we talked about different things, and it was cut short due to other reasons, and things was left out due to other reasons. But I could have just been like, F this, I'm not gonna put it out, but I put it out. You know, shout out to all the people who've been on the show. Shout out to all the people who still want to be on the show. You know, I get off and it's like I'm just right now, and I'm just losing my mind, because when I lose my train of thought, I just start rambling. You know, people was you know, my whole thing is, you know, we can be selective. That's what choices are. You know, it's a shame, you know, like I said, Chris Rock had to, you know, he got that, he became the he became the victim of the selective outrage. But it's at the same thing. Like now, a lot of people, everybody is selective outrage. Imagine being cheated on, and it's from someone who you trusted. Imagine someone stealing from you, and it's coming, and it was from, and it was somebody that you trusted. Imagine someone killing a relative of yours, and it was somebody you trusted. Then take that whole, now take those same things, and then let's go back, because not everybody's in a relationship with people that they know. People are in a relationship with people that they're trying to get to know. You know, I've been on all spectrums. You know, I've been with women who I've been friends with for years. Finally get together, it don't work out. I've been with women who I might have known for a couple days to a week. It's great, but it doesn't work out. Certain things are, you have to, sometimes, unfortunately, we move on impulse. We move off emotion. Not saying that it's the best thing or the right thing, but it happens and we just have to learn from it. Not saying that we're going to get it right all the time. You know, what a lot of people feel about Chris Rock saying about Will Smith is because they might feel as though he's addressing them, which he is. That's what I like about Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle. A lot of times they resonate with me to where they can be addressing one thing or one person, but it resonates with everybody else, and it reflects our life. I didn't even want to spend this whole episode talking about that. You know, there was other things that I wanted to address, and it's okay. I can do whatever I want. I mean, I'm only 72 episodes in, and I've been doing this for over 2 years. I'm taking my time. And that's one thing that we also have to remember as far as taking our time. Every masterpiece isn't done in a day. We can sit here and talk about how talented someone is or how gifted someone is because of their talent or their skill set. And I don't even think people realize that even the most talented people, the most gifted people, creator or non-creator, it takes time for certain things to come. Sometimes the most simplest things might take forever, and the most sensational, unique thing takes a second. I'm going to get out of here. I got more to do. But as always, just in case you miss me, stay safe, stay positive, productive, and prosperous. This is Blair. Cancer Kid Bear. I'm out.